In 2012, little Adrian got a Wimshurst machine. In 2014, an old electric motor, and by 2016, it was a huge variable resistor. Ever since he had the motor and the Wimshurst, he thought to himself it might be a great idea to hook both of them together by a transmission of sorts and power drive the Wimshurst spark machine. And then nothing happened. In 2019 he refurbished the motor a little bit, but other than that, it took until today, 2022, and it took me being in quarantine to actually get it done. This video is going to tell the story about it. What's actually so bad about this thing that I think I want to take it apart? Well, nothing really. It's a little bit dusty, I want to give it a good clean, and the screws, I want to polish them a bit more. Nitpicky things really. But most obviously, this thing has quite a raging imbalance on the rotor, and that gets pretty annoying even on a solid surface, but of course even more if it's running in a shelf where the board would basically act as a resonance chamber. So it's a simple machine, I thought might as well do it.
It was just a neighborhood dance, that's all that it was, but oh, what it seemed to be. It was like a masquerade ball with costumes and all, 'cause you were at the dance with me. It was just a ride on a train, that's all that it was, but oh, what it seemed to be. It was like a trip to the stars, to Venus and Mars, 'cause you were at the dance with me. And when I kissed you, darling, it was more than just a thrill for me. It was the promise, darling, of the things that fate had willed for me. It was just a wedding in June, that's all that it was, but oh, what it seemed to be. It was like a royal affair with everyone there, 'cause you said, yes I do, to me.
With the screw heads on the motor aligned and everything running super silky smooth, we can now move on to the adjustable resistor. It is too large to fit together with everything, so we're going to have to get rid of a couple of sheet metal pieces, and the side parts will have to go as well and be substituted with some slimmer laser cut steel pieces. The Wimshurst needs a little attention herself. It's mostly cleanup and removing the crumbly aluminium foil which I had put on there in an attempt to increase the capacity of the Leyden jars. Lastly, of course, it needs a pulley to be able to belt drive it. Here is where the quarantine phase begins, taking the board and preparing it to accept all the different switches and meters and screws and whatnot, laying down the wires and, cloth insulating them where they can be seen. All that stuff had to happen in my room with all the basic tools that I had laying about. After all that health and safety conform wiring, now it was time to cross fingers and switch the entire thing on for the very first time, see if the smoke keeps inside the wires, and yes it did. Once I was allowed out of my room again, I immediately went to the workshop to machine the drive pulley. That all happened in back gear, and while machining away, suddenly the pulley froze on the spindle.
Scheiße.
Taking things apart, I found out that the Zerk fitting wasn't actually lined up with the oil passage in the pulley bearing, and I also found out that the radial thrust ball bearing was installed the wrong way round, which made it seize to the shaft and never actually spin. So the Babbitt bearing in the rear became the thrust bearing, and it broke apart under the load.
Now that's a lot of damage!
Since it is not a motor, I decided to just dress file everything, put the cracked part in the back, and, have a fresh wearing surface on the other side. With the pulleys machined and painted, I mounted the transmission to the roof, immediately found out that there was quite a lot of slop in the bearings. So now I'm going to have to put some kind of bushing in there.
Jewelry!
And then we'll have to mount the belts, see if we get spark. What is it with me and bearings? There's actual holes in there.